So I'm trying to do this thing in another way as supposed to be. So let's see how it's going. All right. So I want to welcome King from Deity. Okay. Peter for Divante. Okay. And this guy is not in the picture because we have some kind of updated thing. So guys from Commerce, they know that I was going to do something else, so they decided to not come. So also James. So we have Andrew Levine here from Magento as well. And okay, I was missing something here. Oh, too much. Oh, yes, and this is me. Okay. So just a little bit of instructions first. So we're going to do it in a way that nobody is going to take advance about replying first. So the thing is that I'm going to make a question, okay? And then you guys, you have some kind of a whiteboard behind your seats, so please take it, okay? It's quite easy. So you have something to erase and something to write down in the white part, King, in the other, flip it. Yes, here we go. You got it? So I'm going to ask you a question, okay? And then you will, I don't know. I didn't ask anything yet. So okay. All right. So you got it, right? So I will answer something, and then you can write down the answer, okay? And then when I say okay, you can flip, okay? And I will choose someone to reply the question, okay? And then we can comment about it, and then you can make some questions as well, all right? So I don't know if it's...
Do we actually need these?
Yeah. So, okay, so the first question is simple. When are you going to be ready? Ready. So when is the date of launch of any of your initiatives? Okay? Don't copy. Don't copy. Okay? When you have it, you tell me. Okay? Hands up. You don't need to think too much. Come on, to say a date. Okay, you got it? Okay, you flip. Already? I defer to Benmars, and you? 4th of October. Ooh, that's tough. Okay, so we have a winner. So tell us about, you really published. You really open source. You're ready to be downloaded. So when did you do it?
So it was open source from the day zero, so 1 year on the GitHub already. And the first
but being on GitHub doesn't mean that you're ready.
Yeah,
so that's a really tricky thing, right?
The first stable...
I've been on GitHub and I'm not ready at all.
So first stable version was 1st of June this year.
1st of June this year. That's pretty much new. So let's talk Magento guys first. So no, really, when are you going to be ready in anything? I mean...
So this is the second time we've played this game, right?
Yeah.
On a panel.
Yeah, but not this way. Not this way. This is a new one. Okay?
For sure. I knew it was coming.
There's no benchmarks option anytime.
There's always a benchmark.
No.
How long have you been in the Magento community?
Oh, no,
There's literally the best choice is always the benchmark's choice.
Okay.
The alternative is pleading the fifth, but I'm not sure that translates across, country borders. But no. What the proper answer I should give on that is I'm here representing on behalf of Magento, and I have taken part in the PWA project. As of the last few months, while that team's been working hard and growing, I've been focused on current front-end performance, because obviously not everyone's going to be able to switch the day that something's released. So the reason I defer is primarily because I'm not actively involved in the project on a day-to-day, so it probably wouldn't be my place to speak to those sorts of things, because I'm not clued in on the current roadmap.
But what about saying 2019 will be just enough, right? No? A little bit, maybe? Yes?
I will get you an answer.
Yes!
But not today.
All right. Let it on. So what about you guys? I know that you're going to announce something in Reacticon and tell us about it.
Yeah, sure. So, like I told in the presentation, I'm not sure if everyone has seen it. So we are working very hard on the project right now. So we are going to release some kind of version that has the upgraded and updated architecture. It will have
Some kind of version. That's what I mean.
Sorry?
Some kind of version. What that means.
a version.
You
yeah.
say some kind of a version. Is that really?
I mean,
or?
it's still in development. It's still a work in progress. So we try to push in everything that's possible within the time frame. So more will be. Well, I will actually be present at Meet Magento Croatia, where I will have a talk and presentation about what is actually going to be included in the open source release version. So I suggest everyone to go there and see the presentation.
Yeah, that's a good advice. Meet Magento Croatia. All right, all right. So we have another question. So do you like it? Do you like the idea? It's okay? Yeah? Okay. So everybody's talking about PWA. There are some projects done using PWA out there, but what do you think is stopping all people to use it as a standard right now? So go to your answers.
Clarifying question. Is that everyone in the technology space or everyone in the e-commerce space?
It doesn't need to be clarified. It's just everyone. I mean, yeah. We
All
do
right.
Magento here, right? So no one of us, I mean, I will try to do PWA, but it's not ready yet. So what do you think is stopping all people to use it as a standard right now? It's easy. It's connected to the other question. It's because, and then you answer. Okay. Okay. We have a winner again. Someone is making some drawings or something like that. Okay. That's okay. Tell me when you're ready. Okay. We have. Okay. We are. Okay. Another graphic here. Yeah. It's okay. We can put an emoji as well. Right. Yeah. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. Flip. All right. Tech adoption core, that's a nice answer. Stable versions, actual working features, heavy upfront investment.
And a cute cat.
And a cute cap, okay. That's nice, yes. Very cute one, yes. Okay, so what about, you answer very nice, eh? You're CEO, right? You are a CEO, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so
CTO.
okay, CTO or CEO?
CTO.
Okay, so that's brilliant for being CTO then.
Yeah, so tech adoption curve is something we probably all know, like crossing the chasm, classical book. And I think that PWA is somewhere before the chasm, so it's not just popular enough. And as you probably all also know, the merchants and the e-commerce stakeholders are making decisions somewhere in here. So they are choosing something which is pretty popular, and this is what we all observed when Magento took off. Like the first releases, it wasn't so popular right now, and right now everybody like to have Magento because it's kind of standard, technology standard for e-commerce. So it's just taking some time to make new technology a standard. So I think that this is the main reason.
Okay, so learning curve, right?
Exactly.
So people need to
Yeah.
adopt the technology
The business guys.
in the day by day, and then okay. So what about you? You think that as well, people need to be a little bit more sure about investing because of the versions?
I don't really think that's the case at the moment, because like PWA is such a big buzzword right now. Like we can see that our clients do not really care about like upfront costs or whatever, but they actually care about the actual features that PWA solutions are currently supporting. So for instance, when you're talking about offline support, let's say that, yeah, probably all of our solutions currently do not really support a full offline mode. I beg to differ, but
Ouch!
I'd actually like to see then how you handle the offline orders, because, and also
I can show
let's
it to you
say
after.
let's say an e-commerce web shop has 1 million products. So user goes offline, how is he able to browse all those products?
this is like a question about those very details. Like we are caching like last recently used. Answering to a question, but this is not about this.
So you catching as well the payment method as well. So
In offline modes, you have just cash on delivery in our case.
okay. So
But it works.
so you saw the methods that are viable
Yeah.
offline, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody knows that. I didn't. Okay. So you tell me about the cat.
So that's my cat Pixel. He's pretty adorable, and that's perfect representation of him. So my answer was heavy upfront investment. It's kind of two things though. One is a heavy upfront investment because, I mean, especially coming from an agency, you know, I think I was talking to someone earlier, there's someone that has like 104 extensions installed in their store. So PWA specifically in the e-commerce space is very, very, very new. It's especially new to Magento. Like this has all been happening in the last year and a half. And the cost to completely get a new theme going and the cost to get extensions going isn't going to be nil, right? There's going to be a cost associated with it. And I think the more that we see adoption and the more we actually see case studies from e-commerce, like we have some from Google, but it's a limited amount compared to what you would want to see. So I expect adoption to pick up the more it's kind of leveled out and become just an assumption. Like I think we'll get to the point, just like we did with, it's been mentioned by other people at other conferences, that responsive web design was eventually just called web design because it was just implicit that you had to do this. But the other answer that I didn't write down is because I think some of the marketing, both in the PWA space and not, has kind of focused on the wrong pieces of PWA. I think the offline stuff is very important. I think of PWA for me a lot as the Trojan horse that kind of sneaks in high performance with a bunch of other things that may, in my opinion, not be as important. A good example is this, is adding it as like an app to your home screen. I think unless you are one of the top few e-commerce sites in the world and your visitors are coming back again and again and again, I don't necessarily expect, I think there's a very high barrier to adding, just like downloading an app, there's a very high barrier to getting on someone's home screen. So I think a lot of the marketing that's been in the general space around that is probably not the things that we could focus on. Things we can focus on are that, you know, conversions are going to go up because the speed's going to be that much faster and you can actually expose the data that you want to expose to a shopper much faster compared to they might just not add it to their home screen. And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. Okay, I'll say something here. As a business owner, to me, I think that also PWA give us the opportunity to hire different people as well, you know, because having a good front-end developer, Magento layouts, it's the fucking unicorn to find. So it's fucking crazy, you know. It's so expensive. It's this way we will find the way of decreasing the cost of having those unicorns, you know, in our company, you know, all the time. So maybe we can socialize a little bit, you know, the front end as well, and other type of people can also touch Magento projects in another way. Yeah, okay.
But actually, those people that you're currently hiring, so you're saying hiring Magento front-end developers. With PWA, you actually just have to hire JavaScript developers.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. You socialize a little bit, you know. So next question. This is going to be nice. Okay. So I think that you know yourself that you are the best. But which PWA option would you select if you can choose your own one? Okay. If you can choose your own one, yes. Yeah, you cannot. Okay. That will be funny for you.
Should probably use the microphone, right?
They are not record anything, so there's not going to be YouTube or anything.
Down? Yeah? I have to write this down?
Yeah, you need to write it down. Yes, everybody's going to take pictures, you know, it's going to send them to your boss and things like that, so it's going to be, everything is going to be okay, okay? So we have only 10 seconds and counting. Okay, no emojis this time? Nothing? Okay, you can say none.
I did not say none.
Okay, so okay, come on. What? This is encrypted?
It's encrypted.
It's encrypted.
The real answer there is that making a technology decision
But
that
the other ones didn't answer, so wait for your turn. It's going to be okay, everything. So
I'm sorry.
it's okay. It's going to be okay. So flip. PWA Studio, okay, and the other one is going to be
Front commerce.
Front Commerce. All right. So come on, Andrew, put something there. Come on, no?
I can give you the real explanation.
Okay. So don't write it down, but you can say.
Yeah, so the real explanation is that if you're betting on a new technology, especially one that, I mean, if a store is betting on a technology, it's going to be stuck with it for probably at least a decade, assuming that store stays around. I know the other products on a surface level, but I would never advocate for a specific technology without getting my hands on it and really feeling comfortable with what it's capable of, and I just have not done that yet with other solutions.
I know that you're going to answer something related with React.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
But-
because of that, and I prefer him to say something first. But it's not because anything else, right? Because he chose something with he got no option. So your turn.
Okay, so basically, I think that there are many reasons because of people are choosing one or the other technology. And I think that many of the merchants will choose PWA Studio because it's kind of standard. So it's stick to Magento, so it's no brainer, like it's standard, right? It has totally different architecture than we have, and it's for pretty different needs, and it's made using different technologies. But I believe that it could be a good choice.
Okay. What about you, Kane?
Well, let's say that I think that front commerce is probably closely related to Deity. So in terms of that, I just think that, well, they also stand for code quality. So that's also something that I talked about in the presentation and that we think is very important. And of course, we have Andrew now talking about PWA Studio, but he's very cryptic and unclear. So I'm not sure if our clients would like something like that.
Woo!
Fire emoji.
Okay, we have the last one. Okay, sorry for that. This is gonna be fast. Okay, you don't need to look to the screen. I can read it for you. Okay, it's gonna be so easy, so easy. So PWA projects. Now look at it. Come on, follow the rules. PWA web project is fast to browse, but how many hours are needed to make a Magento 2 default storefront using your PWA initiative? Just a number. I need a number.
Repeat that one more time. I was trying to cheat.
How many hours are needed, okay, to make a Magento 2 default storefront using your PWA initiative? Just default, okay, no extensions on it. Okay, just a number. A number, rough number. Yes. Okay, you can do a range from to. It's okay to me as well, but don't copy. No, come on. I won't expect that from you.
You can't cheat, man.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm the boss here, so I can do whatever I want. Okay, so you ready? Flip. So we have 10 minutes.
That's right.
So 160 and a million. That's fair enough. That happens actually with my projects, you know, not PWA. So it's never ends. Front end never ends. It's something that never ends. I'm from 0 to okay. So there was a tricky question here. Okay, this was tricky, and no one of you that saw it. Maybe Andrew, but by casualty, because by casualty, because. So if you're going to launch a theme based on PWA, it's going to cost 0, right?
Between 0 and infinity, and the reason for that is because, for anyone who's been
Why
watching,
don't you run for president, man? It's fucking crazy.
I was gonna
this guy is amazing, huh?
I was gonna make a comment, but being from the States, I'm just going to not talk about politics at all. That's absolutely the smartest move. Yeah, I mean, it's 0 to infinity because I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that's actually looked into the individual solutions that from an actual perspective of coverage area for Magento features, PWA Studio is not in the same place that the other solutions are, being Front Commerce, View Storefront, and Deity. So it's not at a point that you could give a number yet because it's not anything that's production ready or it's not something that you would shop through an entire store with yet. There's limited pieces available, but it's just not something you could start with today.
Okay, so I was trying to choose Kane to answer first, but you fucked it up, so it's okay. So Kane, can you explain to us first?
Right. So I'm not sure if I understood the question correctly because, well, let's say that we provide a basic template and basic configuration. So what we'll actually do is have a Magento instance actually already installed with a Deity API module. So that way we can simply connect it directly, immediately, and you'll have a basic template ready. You just need to install Node on your front end part, and then you install, like, do the create Falcon application thing, and then it's all ready, and you can start like configuring everything after that if the base template does not fit your customers.
So Peter, you say 160 is the magic number I use all the time, you know, to explain my clients that this is more or less the time, you know, that we'll spend in a front end. But we do know that it's more complex in using Magento layout. So why you use 160 number?
Yeah, so this is not a magic number. This is a typical amount of hours for service orders for kind of POCs we are doing on VStorefront. POCs is like proof of concept. So this proof of concept is typically like implementing the team. So after 1 month, one guy working on that, we can have it like implement like totally custom UI. So I would say that this is my bet on that. Of course, 1 million is because you can have like a lot of custom features, 100 modules, right? Ported to PWA, it's probably 1 million hours. I'm joking, but you know, you never know. Like the project can be really custom, so it's always a guess. Like this.
All right, so I think it's time to say thank you to those guys, okay? So give applause to them, please. I think that they did really good. So you cannot see there, but okay, I'm going to talk about Contribution Day and Play Magento at Magento Live. Okay, we're going to...
Before that, can we just give a hand to Nacho for doing such a great job leading this?
It was my pleasure. So, okay, so see you guys in, all right, yes, here we're going to do Contribution Day in Barcelona and also Pre-Magento Live that is going to be an awesome party. So if you want to be there, you just need to sing up, I think tomorrow is going to be open the registration, yes, and it's going to be free party and everyone that's going to go there in Barcelona, I'll say hello to you. So. Thank you very much for coming and attending, and we'll have to sit down here, yes? So what's home? Thank you very much.
Like we still have like a 25-minute book, and I believe we didn't do any Q&A session after the presentation. So if you have any questions directly to the authors or core team members of these solutions, you can do it now. Question to Deity, did you manage to prepare something to show? Or? Okay, it's no problem. And it's like,
So you're going to dance or something? It's prepared?
Yeah, so do someone have some question about this?
So, given that PWAs are 5, 6, 7 technologies, why advocate for replacing the entire front-end stack rather than introducing service worker, push notifications, this stuff, to the existing Magento structure?
So,
Should we use the clicking thing again? Or yes? Skip it. Yeah, okay.
Are you going to decide who goes first? I don't want to take your job, man.
It's okay. You took the microphone.
So I can be the CEO of Interactive 4 now?
Yes, please.
Right on. Who are my employees? Raise your hand. Who are my employees now? Do you employ anyone? Come on, dude. Yeah. So, I can't necessarily speak to every single conversation within Magento as to what initially led to that, because I joined right around the time that the tech stack was decided on. Once again, going back to the kind of Trojan horse analogy, though, I know that a lot of the reason internally was because, like we had talked about before, there's a lot of people that are front-end developers. They are not Magento front-end developers because that's apparently a unicorn now, or has been a unicorn for a long time. But I believe it was a Trojan horse for kind of sneaking in developer ergonomics and some more standard technologies. Obviously, things like React or Vue or anything like that aren't a standard, but they're kind of they're popular technologies in that you can Google how to do X in this thing. It's not, because currently you have to Google how to do this thing in Magento's flavor of Knockout. Which isn't something that we want you to have to do long term, because that requires that we have all of you in the community constantly on Stack Overflow looking for the Magento 2 version of Knockout tag, which I assume you've probably done before. If not, they're on Twitter. So I think the reasons are a mix of wanting to choose technologies that aren't as Magento specific and that are more common things that you could search for, things that are going to last longer than just Magento having to maintain them long term. And the other reason is just because obviously right now, having this 30-second or more turnaround time for having to do bin Magento clear cache, anytime you make a change or going into development mode, basically having these like complex layers of caching, with modern front ends, there's better solutions to that maybe didn't exist 10 years ago. And it's kind of the nature of the technology industry that after a decade or even a few years, a lot of problems have been solved that you may have had to solve yourself before. So this can almost be seen like a reset where we've learned what we did right. We may have learned the places that we didn't do everything, the way that it panned out in the front end community. And now's your chance to kind of go to what the common practices are. And now that I've stolen time from y'all.
I think that maybe other solution is to use AMP standard, not PWA, because PMP was invented to improve the speed with legacy stacks, like legacy technologies. So maybe it's more efficient because you can hardly use all the features of PWA doing the way you mentioned. And I agree with Andrew 100%. So basically, you can even do PWA on OS commerce, right? But what for? Like, it's something that like the benefits of PWA are one thing, and the second thing are technology benefits. And I think that they are even more important than improving speed because you have plenty of ways to do so, like without PWA.
Yeah, it's got a delay. So maybe this is a little bit of a different thing to talk about, but actually PWA is just like tip of the iceberg. Of course, to improve like Magento speed in general, you can just look at a headless solution without the PWA part. So PWA is just like additional functionality that brings like native capabilities. But actually, when you just go headless, then you already have performance improvements. So in that way, you can simply get improvements without actually having a PWA.
And the final thing I'll add in there is that I don't think that having like this brand new technology stack or the existing thing, at least for a few years, they're not mutually exclusive, right? I fully advocate for anyone that wants to go and write a service worker for Magento 2 to do it. Maybe even start selling it and make a bunch of money on it. For context too, I mentioned that I'm not working on PWA myself these days. I'm focusing on some targeted opportunities on the current front end to improve performance. I won't sacrifice the time of the panel too much to talk about that. If you're interested in it or you're interested in helping out, come talk to me afterwards. But I think there's a path for both things. There's a long-term solution and there's things you can do now to kind of get additional performance wins that are going to make your site better without necessarily having to wait this whole time for these new tech stacks to stabilize.
There is why the place where the community strikes, as you can know that the JH, formerly Minby, created the extensions that give you a service worker out of as an extension to the Magenta, so you can use it now. Yeah, Minby. More questions? It's a JH right now, right? Oh, really? I just messed it around. Yeah. Sorry. So it's Space 48, right?
JH is doing some cool stuff too, as far
Yeah,
as
for
front-end
sure.
performance.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's on
Yeah,
the Space
yeah.
48. There's also, like, separately Shane from JH is
Yeah.
working on some performance stuff too for the
I
current
just
front
messed
end.
it up now. And didn't. Yep. So, do we have some more questions?
Okay. Yeah. So we have three views here, three different ways. So let's talk. Let's go back to the offline shopping, because that's something. One of the main things about PWA that everyone says. We already know that Storefront admits they have it. But that's, as you said, it's cash on delivery only. So we have that. There's no, as you think, there's no other way to deal with it. But how to deal with it? That's the thing about it. Do you have any ideas which way to go, what to do to check something, to deal with it, and so on and so on? That would be nice to hear.
It's saying it's a hard problem would be an understatement, and I think there's two different distinct problems. One of them is a purely technical problem. The other one is a user experience problem. An example of that would be if you're going to Burning Man and you try to place an order for something that you want right when you get back from Burning Man, right? So you don't have cell phone service for a week. If you place the order and you want this thing, and then you go to Burning Man, and then someone else who has access to your credit card, like you maybe have a shared account, goes and gets you to your credit limit, and then you come back, and the second you hit a service area, you have the order placed, there's going to be a problem there, right? Because then you're going to have an overdraft and you're going to have angry customer service calls, and that's expensive and painful. So I think with Magento specifically right now, we have a UX researcher that's assigned to the PWA Studio project, and I believe that one of the areas of focus for her is going to be, or has already been, how does the offline experience actually happen? I think for us, the path, at least so far, is going to be UX through research figures out, you know, with proof of concepts and trying them out on real people. Also research on the kind of people who are on the bleeding edge doing this thing in the industry. What the path is that they're taking, where the warts are, where the problems are, what things work well. And then the technical solution will be based on what insights come out of the user experience thing. So for me personally, I still don't know what the solution is. I think there's a good chance that it's going to be years before us as a whole community, not just Magento, just e-commerce, figures out exactly what that means. The nice thing is, in the meantime, we can still do the offline parts that are a bit easier. Like, you know, you visit a catalog, you have it cached locally, which both of these solutions have, and PWA Studio as well. But I don't think there's a good answer to that question yet. I think it's just too early.
Yeah, I think that, you know, the fact that we are supporting it is pretty good for all of us, because we can then share some numbers after having the feedback from the users. I believe that really not so many users are eager to use it because they are afraid of that, of offline orders. I would be, because it's pretty, you know, unnatural.
You know you're offline? You know you're offline.
Yeah.
You see the bars empty.
Yeah.
You need to show to your
I know I'm offline. I know I'm offline because I know some tech. You know, my mother doesn't know she's offline.
Yeah.
She'll buy it.
Sure.
She has it in cash. She'll buy it. Just okay, great skirt. I'm gonna buy it.
The interesting thing is too, though, you even as a technical person, you might not know that you're offline. Like a good example is like in some airports, I have like maybe not LTE but 4G, and I have multiple bars, but the latency on it might as well be offline. And that's going to be another thing where we have to find the right UX for it. And even browsers are still struggling with the problem too of like, how do you know if someone's really offline? Because 2G, like slow 2G, is effectively offline in my opinion.
Considering the weight
Wi-Fi.
of the website, yes. It can be 2G can be basically offline, but so yeah, I don't know if I'm offline, so I'm buying it, and so what's your option on that? What's your definition? I was already got in.
It's a way to show in the front end that you are offline, right? So technically, it's the way to there's a way to show the user that you are offline, and I think that in a good UI you need to tell the user that you are offline. I don't know exactly which is the reaction that will take, to the choose that will use a normal customer or a user. Maybe they will just stop browsing or something like that. Maybe they will think that. I don't know. I'm just thinking logical, and taking myself as a user, and then I'll think, okay, this is not internet is not working right now. Why should I just make or place the order for cash on delivery, or I should wait for something? Maybe I will just browse, not place the order, and then I will wait to have some internet back, something. Maybe. I don't know.
I think that the real use case for that is more like server overloaded than being offline. Because when you have this offline mode, that means your architecture is independent in some ways on your backend. And when it's like really overloaded, marketing, promotions, something like that, you are not losing the clients. Okay, you get, for example, orders for products that are oversold already. That's fine, because you can contact the clients. You can explain them that, okay, guys, we have some problems and the products are not there, but maybe you can do something, right? You are not losing the contact. And when you're overloaded and don't have this capability, you are just losing clients. So I think this is the real case, and I believe that not so many users will use the offline scenario for buying, because for browsing is a different story. Because browsing while offline makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think it's also possible too that the solution to offline orders is not doing offline orders, which kind of sounds dumb now that I say it. But what I actually mean by that is that the solution might be if you have a user that you think is about to convert, whether it's they go to the shopping cart or they check the mini cart, and you do a check and they're offline, or they have Li-Fi, they're effectively offline. Thank you, Bartek. I think in that case, you might have the option of going, like, there's been a lot of discussion online already that push notifications are so incredibly abused. If I go to your blog and the first thing it asks me for is push, I'm going to deny it forever. I think that opens up an opportunity to actually using push effectively. Granted, this could be the worst idea in the world. We won't know until research has been done. But if someone opens up the mini cart and they're offline, or even if they hover near the button to start going to do it, that's a good opportunity to know, hey, you're offline, but we noticed that you might want this thing. Can we give you a reminder when you're back online? So kind of avoiding the whole placing an offline order thing, but looking for an opportunity to re-engage the customer before they just go away and never come back.
The second option will be to utilize the add to home screen also. There was like the idea to use this on the success page, so to track the order, but also it can be useful to make the order when you are going back. Of course, the push notification seems better because are kind of instant and are redirecting you to this place that you want, and do not create any mess on your desktop or something like that. I don't trust this guy.
Did you fill the audience with plants?
I just wanted to add one thing about this offline orders, because this is the problem we are struggling a lot with in VStorefront, and at the end we ended up with solution that Henry described. And I think it's not all about placing the orders offline or doing some stuff while you're offline. It's more like about giving users possibility to finish these things much easier while they will come back online. Because, for example, if you place order while offline, you can place this order on your mobile phone. Then you have your mobile phone switch off. You're logging into the same shop on your desktop, for example. Order is not placed. So you're placing the order again. You're turning your phone on, and then order is placed again. So you're ending up with two orders. So I think there shouldn't be things like offline orders per se. There should be a possibility to finish the orders while coming back online easier. So for example, in VStorefront, we are just saving the order in index.db. And once user comes back online, he receives the push notification. He can click on this push notification and come back to the store. And when he's on the store, he just needs to click confirm to finish the order. So he filled the checkout, he did all the steps while he was offline, so he don't need to do it again. But the transmission part to the server is done only while he's online, so there are no conflicts, etc. So I think it's much more about using PWA technology to allow users to do as much as they can while they're offline and just confirm this while they're online.
Cool. So it sounds like the solution that you mostly end up with was two parts, right? Re-engaging the user and then lowering the barrier to actually get to the point, because like you were saying, you don't want them to have to like surf through the whole store, right?
Yeah,
it should
exactly.
be one click.
Mm-hmm. Where is the guy who don't trust me?
And Bartek, afterwards, you got one right over here too.
So I'm a bit of a realist. What is the most frustrating thing for you for this PWA? If you could change one thing, get it out of this whole PWA movement, what would it be? What annoys you the most?
Like what annoys us about PWA or what annoys us about current state?
How about both?
Ooh. Cool. So the thing that annoys me about the current state of things is, caches. There's so many of them. Where did they come from? How do they work? Yeah, there's a lot of caches and a lot of switches to flip. And especially as myself, having come into Magento and worked directly on PWA Studio and maybe not necessarily working until the last few months on the current front end, those experiences were explained to me, but I didn't fully understand, exactly what was going on until I actually experienced it firsthand, which is part of the reason that I was so excited about focusing on the performance and the developer experience of the current product. With PWAs, the thing that's frustrating to me, and there's been a lot of frustration about it on Twitter recently, is there's abstractions around service worker right now that help, but the way the kind of modern web works is there was this open web manifesto years ago where they said instead of building these high-level features for the web, we're going to build these primitives that features can be built on top of. So service workers seem easy right now because you plug in like Google's plugin for it into Webpack or Gulp or whatever your build pipeline is, and it magically takes care of service workers for you. The problem comes when you kind of lift up the hood and look under it. It's really easy to do something wrong with a service worker and get yourself in a state where it's hard to recover from without picking up the phone and calling a user, and that's just not an option. We saw this a few years ago with, App Cache, which was the original thing that existed before service workers, and this was like a declarative configuration rather than something that was actually programmable, and you could get your users in a state where they were stuck on an old version of your app, and until they went in and clicked like a special button in the browser, which they probably wouldn't know about, you could never re-engage them again. They were always going to be on an old version of your application. You couldn't get them a new version of your application cache manifest. People have shot themselves in the foot with service workers already. I believe there's a book about PWA right now. There's probably a few, but there was at least one that advocated for a kill switch, where basically you bake in a kill switch where you can make sure that you're pinging back home and making sure that there's, for the lack of better words, there's a no shit switch. If something goes wrong, you can press it, it invalidates the service worker, and the user goes back to a functional store. So the biggest pain for me is we're still learning the right patterns for service workers. It's great when you're using the abstraction. As soon as you drop down, things are scary.
The same with me. It may be strange, but I had the same thought, like caches are always hard. Like in backend development, threads, where multi-threading was always a pain in the ass, and memory management, of course. And here in front-end, caches are the same thing. And the other thing for me are the fallbacks. Like, you have to deal with a lot of fallbacks for everything. Like, for ECMAScript, to use some features of ECMAScript, you have to do fallbacks. You have to compile it to have TypeScript and all this kind of stuff. So, at some point you are ending up with the Webpack configuration for 2,000 lines and very hard to manage. So that was something that was frustrating me.
All right, I also have something to add to that, of course. I fully agree with my colleagues here, but Actually, there's something about PWA that I think not a lot of people know about, and specifically it's about a design-only thing. So currently on iOS, when you install your PWA on your home screen, actually it disables the Safari bottom navigation. So it also disables your ability to slide to the previous page. So actually, you will have to add some kind of functionality on the screen to actually move back to your previous screen. So when a designer is designing your site, like probably, I'd say 90% of the time, there is no functionality to actually go back on to the previous screen. So when a user is going to install it to a home screen, there is no way he can go back to a previous page. So this is one pain in the ass I have right now.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that, but that's interesting too. Like it almost pushes us back into user agent sniffing.
Yeah, so you actually have to design like your web page is going to be a native application.
Sure. Yeah, because you can't feature detect if like the browser Chrome is showing the back button, right? I think a good example of that is like Twitter Lite. I hadn't even considered it until now. If you're not familiar with Twitter Lite, I think it's like mobile.twitter.com. It's Twitter's PWA that they're slowly rolling out to their desktop site too. But I've always been curious about why, like in iOS, I've got Twitter Lite's back button, and then I've got the browser's back button, and that's probably why. Not great.
Okay, so let's do the last question, and then I'm here.
Hi. Hey guys, let's get back to the offline mode for a moment. It looks like a threat for entire PWA apps. I want to ask you about what? I just remembered another technology with like a philosophy of being online-ish. It's Internet of Things. Like we have an entire globe connected devices, yeah. And here's the question: if we have a lot of devices that are connected, always stay connected, what's the reason, like, for the offline mode for PWA apps? I mean that maybe, for example, Google, as a primary vendor who popularized PWA apps, wanted to make this technology available maybe in regions with poor internet access. Maybe this technology, I mean offline access, will be more popular, for example, I don't know, in Asia region, and not so popular in USA, for example?
For sure. I think the distinction there is that for at least most IoT devices that I'm familiar with, like I just replaced all the light bulbs in my house with Philips Hue as an example. And the interesting thing there is that even though I'm over Wi-Fi, I have a hardwired connection. It's just a hardwired router. The other thing is too, it doesn't leave my house. So besides Time Warner or Spectrum or whatever it is now just being terrible and randomly just, you know, not giving me internet, mobile devices are distinct in that they're one of the few devices we have that is not, you know, static in where it is in the world. And even like a big motivating factor, I think, for Google originally was, yeah, you've got the markets where there's two different things. There's like the network connection that you mentioned, high latency, and also kind of like lower tier phones that aren't necessarily as fast. I think that was the original, I can speculate that that was the original motivating factor. I can't speak for them. But you have to keep in mind too that there are places like in California, you might be driving through the mountains and you lose service. In New York, and I'm sorry, I'm giving US examples because I'm just not cultured. I'm learning slowly. Okay, for sure. So yeah, like in New York, there's subways. Oh, we were talking earlier. If you were to take the train to your Valencia office, it goes so fast that there's problems with the connection that they're trying to solve. So there's even places where high-speed internet is ubiquitous, but because of the fact that these devices can go anywhere, connection doesn't necessarily always follow.
How often do you buy things in mountains?
Also in the planes, you know, the planes as well. So elevator in the plane, you know, you have internet in the plane. You sometimes have higher speed and then slow down a little bit. So using PWA, you know, should be normalize the user experience in this case.
Actually, I have another comment about that. So I think Google is kind of losing its mind right now, because lately I've seen like a comment, or actually it was on Google developers side, that they are going to disable JavaScript on 2G networks. So I assume that when you're offline, it's even going to disable the JavaScript then itself. So then what is the point of having a PWA? And of course, Google is like kind of the inventor of PWA. So I'm kind of lost about how they think that the future should look like.
Yeah, so Google has this concept of, because they have so much market share with browsers, they have, and I'm sure you know this, I'm just making sure, adding context, they have this concept of interventions, where they basically think because we have so much market share on the web, it's our responsibility to kind of push things forward. So they've had lots of interventions over time. A good example of them was if you're on a slow connection, custom fonts fall back to system fonts, so that you're not going to a blog post that just has an image and no text, or it has that gross skeleton text pattern that I hate. But yeah, so they're running that intervention right now, and basically what happens is if you're on a slow connection, and they're slowly going to be rolling this out more, and they said they're eventually going to move it to faster connections than 2G. They want to really push on it. But the intervention is they'll completely disable JavaScript, and then you get a button in your address bar, kind of like Internet Explorer 8 and 7 back in the day, where it was running in Quarks mode, or it wasn't running in Quarks mode, and it was like, do you basically want to go in the compatibility mode? It's going to be a similar UX that they're using right now, and there's a way that you can actually play with it in like Chrome flags. I think it's an interesting choice. I think if you have server-side rendering, though, and you have like proper fallbacks for your links, so they just do a full page refresh, I think you're in the clear for the most part. The thing I haven't tested, though, is if you already have the PWA installed, so a service worker's already been registered, I don't know if the intervention happens at that point. I would suspect if everything's cached that it didn't happen. If not, maybe we need to push back on them. As if we have that power.
Okay, so let's wrap up. That was the last question. We are now going to the after party. Yes. Maybe not immediately, but still we need to go to the Krakow. But you need to remember to take your badges to this party, because otherwise you will not get in. So this is crucial. And few words about this Google stuff. Remember that they have a lot of teams working on a lot of products. Yeah, they have like a AMP team, PWA team. They are working on, I don't know, instant apps for Android devices. So probably these inventions maybe come from the Chrome team or something like that. So I think they are just testing what is possible to do and which one behaves the best.
Yeah, I think it's only in like select markets or like a limited number of Chrome users right now. That's what they do with most of the interventions. There's been ones too that they've completely pulled back. Like there was one the other day where they got rid of the www and URLs, and the internet went crazy.
Okay, so thank you all for it.